Hi, this is Lee Solden. Been a while, but I don't know, 7, 8 months since I made a video. Um, this one is going to be introducing you to my system. I've made previous ones for this, um, but let's start over, kind of. Okay, I should have started out like this. Hey, why should you listen to me? Well, because if you do, you won't be wasting your time. There's lots of ways to learn a language. In my opinion, there's only one correct way, and that's my way. People, they hear me say that and they go like, "Huh, what is he talking about?" And there's got to be more than one way to learn a language. Everybody's different. No, everyone's not different. Everybody's the same. When it comes to language, we all have a speech center. Everyone's speech center works the same way. We all learned our native language the same way. All like 8 billion of us, and throughout the dawn of time, everyone's learned their language the same way. Works great. I propose that when you learn a second language, you learn it just the same way you learned the first language. Whatever your native language is, you learn the next language and the next language and the next language all the same way, same method. Well, you might have heard a lot of other people say, "Yeah, learn natural." Okay, that's great, but as far as I can tell, nobody's really got it right. Okay, why did I get it right? Complete by accident. Okay, I never tried to learn this stuff. I just accidentally stumbled upon it as part of many years of studying languages. Back in the December of 2018, hey, I learned this system. I started learning the little first piece of it. Like 4 or 5 months later, I had learned every bit of what I'm about to go over here. Okay, and again, it's natural language acquisition, the way everyone learns their native language, but the key is my system does not miss any steps. Okay. Step one, start listening to the language that you want to learn. When I say listen to it, I mean just like a baby does. A baby is born into, let's take Portuguese, in Brazil. Okay. Person's born in Brazil, they're hearing everybody speaking Brazilian Portuguese all around them, right? So if you want to learn Brazilian Portuguese, start immersing yourself in Brazilian Portuguese by playing it for like 3 hours a day while you're eating, as you're preparing for bed, as you're getting ready for the day. Maybe you're studying math. Have it playing lightly in the background. It never needs to disturb what you're doing. Doesn't have to be very loud, but it needs to get in your ear, just like a baby or a young child has the Brazilian Portuguese going in their ear. They're maybe playing with their building blocks or whatever. They're not paying any attention to what's going on around them. It's just there. You need that language to be there for you. Okay, that's number one. I call it the 3 habits to learn a language. By the way, none of those are studying, for instance. No, kids don't study, right? So habit number one is be surrounded by the language. Habit number two is hearing the same phrases over and over and over again. Okay. Well, what I call this? I call this ear tuning exercises. Well, back to that kid from Brazil. Their mother's going to say, "Hey, Daddy's home, Daddy's home, Daddy's home. What a pretty baby! What a pretty baby! What a pretty baby!" Well, that baby or the young child is going to hear the same phrases over and over and over again, day after day. That allows their speech center to tune into the language. Baby's born initially, uh, can't understand anything. doesn't even understand the syllables that well. I mean, you say that even while the baby's in the womb, it's hearing some of the basic patterns of the language, the beat of the language. That's great. But the the baby, when it's born, still can't understand anything, still can't really understand the syllables spoken. But because it keeps hearing those phrases over and over, pretty soon the speech center is going to interpret the speech, the Portuguese, as individual syllables. Now, you can't skip this step. If you try, well, you're just simply never going to hear Portuguese quite right, and therefore, if you can't hear it right, you really can't repeat it correctly either. Okay. If you hear something exactly right, you can repeat it exactly right. Pretty darn close. Okay. So, first habit, surround yourself with the language. I call that passive listening. Second habit is to hear these repeated phrases called, and I call that ear tuning exercises. Now, there's a little bit more to this. I've found a way to shortcut that process down into just days to get it to where you can hear Brazilian Portuguese pretty darn well. And I know from experience that trying to just, someone explaining you how to say something, you keep trying to repeat it, you keep trying to repeat it. Now, it can take a few years of doing that before you start getting a decent pronunciation. You may be speaking with an accent. There's no need for any of that. A few days. When I say a few days, I mean 3 days of overall time, but only 3 hours of your time. 3 hours of your time. You can actually be hearing Brazilian Portuguese quite well with what I call ear tuning exercises. You take 30 seconds of speech in Brazilian Portuguese, and it's broken down into syllables written in English. I've written the syllables in English, so you can read each syllable, what you should be hearing, as you're listening to the Brazilian Portuguese at full speed speech. So I'm going to have you listen to a guy speaking. Actually, I got a whole minute's worth. So you listen to 1 minute of speech. And as you're listening to it, you're going to be using your eyes only to follow the individual syllables. So in 1 minute, you try your best to follow those syllables. You can't do it unless, well, if you've already, say you're tuned into Spanish already, you can follow Portuguese, a similar accent. But assuming you're not, you're just an English speaker, you cannot actually follow those syllables, which is why no one ever came across this. I accidentally came across this, okay? Nobody would ever have told somebody, hey, try to listen to a guy speaking Portuguese at full speed speech, and here's the syllables in front of you, follow those. So every time he says a syllable, you have your eye on the right syllable. You'll get lost immediately, okay? You can't do it. It's impossible. Which is why no one ever figured this out, okay? By a series of events, accidents, I call them, I found out that if someone tries to do this for 1 hour a day for 3 days in a row, combined with having the passive listening in the background for 3 hours a day, they will tune in to Brazilian Portuguese. And it's just all of a sudden. This is not studying. This is not training. This is giving data to your input center by attempting to follow those ear tuning syllables. Attempting to always put your eye on the right syllable, the one being spoken at the moment. Even though you can't do it, the continued attempt at trying it. Remember, we're only talking about, in this case, 60 seconds worth of syllables. Well, that's like 140 syllables written in front of you. Over 3 hours looking at those same 140 syllables, you are going to get some familiarization with them. But that's not the point. The attempt at trying to follow those syllables in combination with being surrounded by the language for a few hours a day, and actually have the person loop the same audiobook. It's a 6-minute long audiobook. They just loop it for 3 hours. It's the same audiobook that has those ear tuning syllables in it, right? So you're over 3 hours, you're gonna hear those ear tuning syllables quite often. So those two activities, ear tuning exercises and the passive listening, are going to mean that within just 3 days, it's 1 hour per day doing the ear tuning exercises, because you do that 1 hour over and over and over again. A little more to it than that, a little bit more. Okay, you try like 3-4 times to follow the syllables while you're reading them with your eyes, right? There's no talking about it. This is all listening. You're listening to Portuguese. And while you're listening intently, you're trying to use your eyes to follow those ear tuning syllables in front of you. Okay. After 4 times of that, now you close your eyes and you listen to the same Portuguese being spoken. Just try your best to follow it. Okay. Try to hear the individual syllables. Well, you've just gotten somewhat familiar because you were trying to read them while they're being spoken. Now you're just going to listen carefully 4 times. Okay. You go back. Now that was one set. So one set is, say, 4 times trying to read them while you're listening, then 4 times with your eyes closed just listening, right? It's one set. Well, you keep doing one set after another. So again, 4 times you're reading the syllables while listening, and 4 times your eyes shut just listening, and then again and again. And you do that 1 hour a day. I tell people do it 1/2 hour in the morning, then listen to your 3 hours of Portuguese in the background while ignoring it. Remember, you don't know what any of these words mean anyway, so you really can't help but ignore it. It's just some completely, it sounds like complete in the background. You can't make nothing out, hardly, probably. So 1/2 hour in the morning, ear tune exercises, 3 hours of passive listening where you're just ignoring the same audiobook. Before you go to bed, do another 1/2 hour of ear tuning exercises. Sometime the 3rd or 4th day, all of a sudden, wow. you go to listen to the Portuguese and it doesn't sound like it sounds like, hey, how are you? Well, it sounds nice and clear. You still can't understand it. That's okay. But you hear the syllables said nice and clearly. What happened? Your speech center just figured things out for you. So you just shortcutted months and months or maybe years of doing things the wrong way into 3 hours of your time, and now you can hear Portuguese just fine, or Brazilian in this case. You want to learn. I mean, I could probably, if someone wants to learn the Portuguese version, I probably can help you with that. I'd have to rewrite ear tuning syllables for that. I did start learning that initially, but then people from Brazil started teaching me Brazilian Portuguese, so I've stuck with that ever since. Anyway, that's 2 habits you need to be into. Okay. 3rd habit is you somehow you have to get associations between the Portuguese words and the English words. Okay. So association. What I call that, I call this read-throughs, as I call my system read-throughs. Again, this is something that I just stumbled upon. It's actually like maybe the second part of this I stumbled upon, right? Read-throughs are basically the way I do them. This is how I do them, okay? I look over my notes for what something means in Portuguese. Say I might look at one sentence at a time. When I first started, I look at one sentence. I look at my notes, go, this word means that, da 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 da. Here's the overall meaning of the sentence. analyze, well, why does this sentence mean that, da, da, da. People from Brazil helped me a lot with all that. And I took all these notes, okay? But me taking notes from them is not how I learned the Portuguese. It helps me learn the Portuguese because it sets up my read-throughs. Here's how you learn a language. But assuming, number one, you've been doing the passive listening and you never stop doing the passive listening, okay? That habit you get into, you never stop. Number two, you do the ear tuning exercises. Again, you never stop doing it. This is a habit you get into, you never stop. You can do less and less of the ear tuning exercises. You start out with an hour a day and you keep it up. I tell you, keep that up for a week, go down to a half hour a day, then 15 minutes a day, and then down to 10 minutes 4 times a week. That's 40 minutes a week you invest in your time over the years of studying Portuguese, okay? And probably get away with a little less than that after a few years, but at least for the first 3 years, you want to be doing ear tuning exercises for 10 minutes a day, 4 days a week, 40 minutes per week, okay? Okay, now, assuming you're doing all that and you're getting this perfect ear for Portuguese going on, then, and only then, will these read-throughs work to teach you the language. This is how the read-through goes. This is how everyone learns their whole language. You get an introduction to what something means, okay? In terms of a known language or in terms of actions going around, actions that are going on around you. Actions, events, circumstances. Okay. If you are learning Portuguese as a baby, you know nothing. Well, now you're going to hear a Portuguese word, but you're also going to see what your mother's doing when she said the word. You can see she's smiling or frowning. You know what you're doing. Maybe you know what your brother's doing. You know what everybody else in the room is doing. You kind of see what's going on, and there's words spoken by your mom. Well, you don't know it really, but your speech center picks it up. The word plus what's going on around as the word was spoken. Next morning, after your speech center processes it overnight and builds paradigms up in your mind, you hear the same word and you associate it with what you saw the previous day. Now you've just learned. Now you know and you may not know it perfectly yet, but you hear the same word the next day and the next day and the next day. And you keep seeing these circumstances, and pretty soon, as a young kid or 1-year-old, 2-year-old child, you know your first word of Portuguese. Excuse me. Okay. Now, once you know your first word, maybe you know, let's say, another 50, 70 words, and now you hear a new word, but it's in context of the first 70 that you know. Maybe you don't need so many gestures because it's in context of known words. Your mind will fill in definitions and even grammar for you if you're hearing something within a bunch of other known words, okay? Now, back to what I'm having you do with these read-throughs. You already know language. You're way ahead of a child. You're way ahead of a baby. You already know English. So all you have to do is introduce the Portuguese words along with the English words at the same time. Okay. So you look over your notes and you say, oh, okay, this sentence means such and such and such and such, and this Portuguese word means this English word, da 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 da. You're not done yet. You've just started the process of doing the read through. The next couple parts are the important parts. Okay. After you've just looked over those English words that go with the Portuguese words, now you're going to listen to the Portuguese being spoken from that very same audiobook you've been constantly listening to before, trying to do your tuning part. You're going to listen to it 3 times while reading that sentence and see how well you understand it. Okay, now the focus is on understanding. Before, all your focus for ear tuning exercises, You're only worried about, well, what does this sound like? He's saying a certain sound. You're trying to follow that ear tuning syllable. See if it matches, right? Now, all you're doing is caring about what does that sentence mean? Nothing else. What does it mean? Okay. And you're going to listen to it being read to you from the audiobook, and you're reading it. Okay. You're wondering, well, can you read that fast? Yeah, because hey, you've been doing the ear tuning exercises and you were following the speech at full speed. So yes, you can read it at full speed. Okay. Now, you read it a few times. What do you do next? You close your eyes and you just listen to the Portuguese being spoken. Okay. Now, you may not understand the Portuguese sentence that first time you hear it, or even the third time you hear it. That's okay. Babies don't understand anything the first time they hear it. But I'm going to have you do the same exercise tomorrow. What's the difference there? Well, your speech center will have taken what it heard on the English words, put it together with the Portuguese that it heard, and it's going to tie the two things together. When you go to do the same exercise tomorrow, you will understand the Portuguese better. Still not perfectly, but you can do this day after day. It's a daily habit, right? Just like a baby, a young child, 1, 2-year-old, they don't know their whole language instantaneously, but pretty soon they know it all, okay? But you get in this habit, daily habit, doing the read-throughs, in your case, associating the English words with the Portuguese words. And I tell people do like a half hour a day. It's plenty. Eventually, you're going to know Portuguese. Now, after you've done that first sentence, by the way, you can go back in the same sentence, read it while listening a few more times, close your eyes, listen a few more times, and even a third set. Read it while listening 3 times, close your eyes, and just listen. Okay. In the long run, you're going to want to know what the Portuguese sentence means with just listening to it, right? That's the key in the long run to learning the Portuguese language, is you're going to get yourself to where eventually, doesn't take long really, you hear Portuguese being spoken and you just know what they're saying. And there might be a new word here and there, but your mind will tend to fill it in. You'll be able to follow the gist of what's going on. And well, from there, to learn the rest of Portuguese, just keep listening to it, right? That's it. So the process of learning it is just developing those 3 habits. Habit 1, surround yourself with the language. Habit 2, do the ear tuning exercises. Habit 3, keep doing the associations, which I call read-throughs. Now again, the read-through has 3 parts. Look over the definitions, 1. 2, listen while reading. 3, just listen with your eyes closed. You do this sentence after sentence after sentence. What do you do the next day? Do the same sentences over again, and then maybe go further with newer sentences. You don't have to do the same sentences every day. Spend some of your time reviewing older material, sometime learning new material. Pretty soon you're into the second audiobook, third audiobook, fourth. There's like 15 audiobooks in this particular series. And as you keep learning new stuff, you keep going back, always going back and learning the old stuff again, going over the old stuff again. Well, this might sound boring. Why keep going backwards? Well, kids never learn anything the first time they hear it. The reason why they're native speakers is because they keep hearing the same stuff over and over again, day after day, day after day. And again, I'm telling you, to learn like a native means to do the same repetition any native gets. There's no shortcut. You can try to do it a different way, but you're wasting your time. The only way you can really learn a language is to listen to stuff that you know what it means, okay? Well, think about it. First time you listen to that very first sentence in Portuguese, You didn't really know what it meant, but you come back to it and you keep coming back to it. But eventually you're going to know what it means. Eventually you're going to know that whole first audiobook, the whole second audiobook, the whole third audiobook. Well, you can't stop there. You will not have, you still haven't learned any Portuguese. What does it take for you to actually learn Portuguese? To listen to Portuguese that you understand. You know this first audiobook perfectly, so listen to it. Read it a few times while listening to it and go, oh, yeah, I understand that perfectly. Okay, close your eyes. Listen to it a few times. Oh, yeah, okay, I understand that perfectly. Now, you're not learning it, are you? I mean, you're not studying it. You're just listening to it. You know it. You're listening to it, right? Even though you know it perfectly, that is when you're really learning it. When I say really learning it, I mean now you can turn around and speak it. Now, all you've ever done up to this point is just listen to it, listen to it, listen to it. When you listen to what you know, your mind automatically gives you a signal to start speaking it. And you start speaking it correctly. Why? Because you've been listening to it so much and your ear is native. If you try to say something wrong, you'll catch it and correct yourself, right? So that's why kids speak Portuguese without an accent. I mean, it's just, well, they say what they heard. Kids don't sit there and try to repeat everything you say to them. They just listen and listen and listen. About a year and a half years old, they start talking. And some kids, I've had a couple myself, and it varies. One of my kids spoke perfectly immediately. Long sentences, no pronunciation mistakes, everything's right. You know, not every kid's like that, but you know, the one kid of mine went a long time, never said nothing. Then all of a sudden, everything's perfect, which points out something really simple. Speaking a language is not the way to learn how to say it correctly. Listening to it is. That's the key, listening. And then when you start talking, when you feel like starting to start to talk. Does practice help? Yeah, at that point you want to start talking, you want to find a native speaker, hopefully converse with them. You do need practice. You need conversational practice at that point. Um, Getting yourself used to talking in that language and communicating that language, get the confidence, all that good stuff. There's other ways to go about that, but you want to start out to the point where you already say things correctly. You know what you're saying. When you do say something, you know what you're saying. You understand it. So it's not so hard to become good at conversing with somebody when you're starting out, where you can hear what they're saying perfectly. You know how to pronounce everything already. Uh, so you got you got a pretty high vocabulary. You know, you learn all these audiobooks. Um, so you don't want to do what the average person does, is to start with nothing. They're starting to converse, worry about their mistakes. They're probably speaking in a completely wrong accent, whatever their native accent is. They're not speaking with a Brazilian accent. Um, you don't want to do that. You want to start out the listening based, and then start speaking it when your mind tells you, "Hey, I want to start speaking this," and you will. Anyone that hears enough stuff in a language, any language, is going to want to start speaking it. Okay, that's it. And believe it or not, what I just told you, it's other people don't know it unless I've taught them. Okay, it's not out there. So if hey, try my system. Um, I'll have links to different audiobooks for you to learn different languages. If you like all this, subscribe, uh, like the videos, share the videos. Okay, comment in the comment section. Bye bye.